Betty J. Eadie died twice. The first time that she died, she was just 4 years old. She had caught whooping cough and pneumonia, and the doctors there said, "We've lost her." But Betty was confused because she was still right there. Suddenly, a man appeared in the darkness. He was luminous, white-bearded, and he held on to her, just telling her that she was loved. And she didn't know who he was then, but decades later, she would. 27 years later, in 1973, after a routine surgery, she lay again in a hospital bed, in the darkness, fighting an overwhelming sense of foreboding. And then once again, everything went dark. That day in the hospital, Betty believes that she died from a post-operative hemorrhage. What she experienced is difficult to verify, but impossible to forget. Eadie claims that while her body lay dead, her spirit was more alive than ever. She says that she had access to vast, eternal knowledge of the universe. She says she witnessed different realms of the spiritual world, met her guardian angels, became a flower for a little while, and spoke with Jesus Christ himself. This is her testimony, and it uncannily matches records left behind hundreds of years earlier by an inventor and scientist who also claimed to have seen the afterlife firsthand, Emanuel Swedenborg. So what does it mean when visitors to the afterlife tell the same story? Can we find a common truth?
What happened?
I felt my body dying, literally, starting from my feet, my hands, creeping up through my body. And it's a feeling that's very distinctive. You know something is extremely wrong. And then there was this tremendous sinking sensation. There was a pop, and then a movement in my chest, and my spirit came up out of my body, at my chest, ran up to the ceiling, and I turned and I looked down, and I could see myself lying there on the bed.
Eadie's account matches a scene that Swedenborg claimed to have witnessed himself, one that the angels reportedly showed to him so that he could document it for others. I was enabled to perceive and even to feel that there was a pull, a kind of drawing out of the deeper levels of my mind and therefore of my spirit from my body. And I was told that this was being done by the Lord and is what brings about our resurrection. Swedenborg also described a crucial detail. We never enter the next world alone. And the next event in Betty's account supports that entirely. Eadie was met by 3 beings of light who were floating above the ground, and she felt immediately like they all knew each other. They explained that they were her guardian angels, and she learned that we all have guardian angels with us.
You may have 2 or 3 at one time, and during your deeper, darkest hours, you may have 8 or more. And they do not interfere with your free will, but they try to encourage you to do the right things, and always leading you and directing you towards the right things in your path.
Swedenborg also wrote about loving, caring, angelic escorts who guide the newly dead into the spiritual world, staying with us until we're ready to move on. Spiritual angels do everything for us as newly arrived spirits that we could ever wish in that state. They tell us, at least to the extent that we can grasp it, about the realities of the other life. Angels really do love everyone. They want nothing more than to help people, to teach them, to lead them into heaven. This is their highest joy. Betty's guardian angels wanted to make her transition a peaceful one, so they took her to see her husband and her children, reassuring her that her family would be okay without her. She was told that they had their own journeys and their own guides. The group returned to the hospital, and the next phase of Betty's journey began. She felt herself powerfully drawn into an endless black space, where she felt instinctively that others were with her, undergoing a transformation just as she was. From the darkness, Betty saw it, a pinpoint of light pulling her forward.
As I came to the light, I could see that it was a being, a person that was emanating this light. The light was flowing from him. And as I got closer, I knew who this man was. And I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, just like I would know a grandfather or a grandmother, I knew that he was Jesus Christ.
Eadie ran straight toward Jesus, into his loving embrace. And he held her, and she felt safe and adored and loved unconditionally. She was home. Jesus escorted Betty through heaven, where she saw all kinds of amazing things. She saw clothes being woven from spun glass, and she saw flowers that were alive with joy.
Then I was taken to the most magnificent garden. It was very beautiful with trees and flowers of all colors, and the grass was very crisp and very cool under my feet. But I noticed that it was as though every blade of grass had intelligence, and it was happy that I was walking on it. I know that sounds very crazy in a way, but it was wonderful. And a flower that I was particularly interested in was a rose, and I was able to enter into that rose by some strange and unusual way, just desiring to be a part of it. I entered in and became a part of it. And as I felt love for this rose, the rose began to expand and literally grew right there with me inside of it. And I learned from that as you love things, they absolutely will grow, not only just physically, but they grow spiritually by that love.
Swedenborg described similar gardens, astonishingly beautiful and alive with spiritual meaning. We actually did a whole episode of another show about that. You can check the link in the description if you're curious to hear more. To turn now to the magnificent gardens, they are breathtaking. Huge parks containing every kind of tree come into view, so beautiful and so charming that they defy all power of imagination. Absolutely everything appears in its loveliest springtime and its loveliest bloom, with stunning magnificence and variety. Every single object is alive with representation, since nothing exists there that does not represent or symbolize something heavenly or spiritual. Swedenborg even witnessed newly arrived spirits hundreds of years before Betty Eadie, who were just as shocked by their surroundings as she would later be. Stupefied, they said that it was indescribable, and that they could never find a mental picture to represent its indescribability. Exhilaration and happiness shone out from every particle, they said, with unending variety. It is not the actual gardens that delight an angel, but the things they represent, and so the heavenly and spiritual realities behind them. What Eadie and Swedenborg perceived was beyond just visual. Both saw heavenly gardens that were alive with love and with truth, infused by the divine with meaning and vitality, more real than real. After a really difficult life, full of hardships of all kinds, Betty had a lot of questions for Jesus. But she found that he had all the answers that she was looking for. He invited her to tap into what was called pure knowledge, answers about the laws that govern life, pain, and love.
I went through what was called a ripple effect. And this ripple effect was like a life review, showing that what you do to others is going to come back to you. Not only will the pain that you cause them ripple back to its greater you, but the pain that others create in other people because of what you've done to them, that all comes back.
Swedenborg also claimed that wisdom in the spiritual world is absorbed into life itself. It's not just something in your memory. Wisdom is felt and known innately, to the extent that a spirit loves the truth and accepts it. Spirits actually accept and absorb whatever agrees with their life, and do not accept, much less absorb, what does not agree. This is because spirits are affections, and therefore have a human form that resembles their affections. What Betty really wanted to know was, why do we experience pain? She had endured suffering since she was young. Her upbringing was difficult, it was disjointed, and she held on to a great deal of fear and resentment, describing herself as being very judgmental. When she was 4, her parents divorced, and she and her 9 siblings were separated and sent to really harsh boarding schools. So she had to grow up fast, and she learned not to trust other people. Her life taught her that she would have to fight and take care of herself. But through pure knowledge, she learned that pain exists in our world because we need it. It helps us grow.
If we didn't learn pain, we would not learn joy or happiness. And so some of us that have probably the greater pain are actually the greater spirits capable of handling that additional growth period.
The people who inflict pain, Betty says, could be any one of us.
These people are just giving back what they have received in life. Often it is even actually genetically coded, some of the trends, I guess, that run through families. I had my problems, and I was a real fighter. I had a very bad temper. I was raised in Indian boarding schools, and we had to fight actually for survival.
Betty was engulfed by love, by patience and acceptance in heaven, especially from the Lord. In her book about the experience, Embraced by the Light, Betty wrote this: "In the spirit world, no one is made to feel uncomfortable by being forced to do or accept things for which they are not prepared. Patience is a natural attribute there. I'll never forget the Lord's sense of humor, which was as delightful and quick as any here. Far more so, nobody could outdo his humor. He is filled with perfect happiness, perfect goodwill. There is a softness and grace in his presence, and I had no doubt that he is a perfect man. I knew him, his spirit, his feelings, his concern for me. I felt his kinship with me, and I knew that we were family. I felt that his relationship to me was both like a father and an older brother. He was close to me, but there was also an element of authority. He was tender and good-natured, but also responsible. I knew with a sure knowledge that he would never misuse his authority, that he would never even desire to do so. Betty was happy in the joy of heaven. She didn't want to come back to earth, but she was told she had to return. She argued to stay, telling Jesus she was absolutely not going back, but Jesus laughed and told her she had a mission to complete. If we saw divine providence clearly, we would interfere with the orderly sequence of its processes and distort and destroy it. For Swedenborg, every lifespan is set by divine providence. We do not decide when we are done. For Betty, that meant a mission of love still waited. Betty Eadie's overwhelming takeaway from all of this was that love is the highest law of the universe.
Jesus said to me that our purpose for being here on this earth is to learn to love, and that is one of the most important things. That if we love one another, everything else will be okay.
Love is all about reciprocity, about wanting others to feel good and happy, and then feeling good and happy yourself because you're providing those same feelings to others. It's the only gift that replenishes when you use it. Betty J. Eadie died twice and came back to life. Whether or not you believe Betty's account, her testimony, and Swedenborg's writings point to the same conclusion, that love is not just what matters most, it is the very structure of reality itself. If she's right, then death is just the beginning. Hey, thanks for watching the NDE files. Hope you enjoyed this episode. What we're trying to do in this show is make sense of the afterlife. We're trying to take the experiences of Emanuel Swedenborg, which are just incredibly extensive and structural, and match them up with experiences throughout history so that we can try to understand what's really going on with a life after death, so that we can get a good sense of what this reality we're in is, and hopefully have not just comfort, but action steps of how we can live rightly in that. So please please subscribe. That helps our channel get out there, and leave a comment. We're gonna respond to every comment that you put here because we wanna know what you think. Thanks for watching.